Hey everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Mike Holober, Grammy-nominated pianist, composer, and conductor, full professor at the City College of New York, and recipient of the 2022 American Academy of Arts and Letters Andrew Imbrie Award in Music. Mike is here to show us how to decide how to voice the ensemble.
Thanks, Dan. It's really nice to be here. How to voice the ensemble, that is, wow, that's so general. This is going to be a 4-hour presentation, only kidding. I want to address one kind of existential thing. I had to practice saying existential. And that is deciding, people are always saying, how do I voice this? And to me, the first thing to me is you need to decide is, what's the function of the voicing? Do you want like the harmony vertically, clearly, and strongly described, or is this really horizontal and you just want to support a melody and move? And that's really, that decision-making process to me is one of the most important things about voicing. What do you want this voicing to do? Move or give you harmonic definition? So I picked I have a long list of what I'm not going to talk about. The idea of spreads with, I think of a bottom on that with a root and maybe a fifth, like a pedestal of a statue or a boat with an anchor down, or an oak tree with roots, like the spreads. They're very stable. They don't move around like this very well unless you reharmonize every one. You have to think very carefully, what's the speed and pace of the music? Can we hear this with new harmony on each one? Or should it be like a traditional soli voicing, like things voiced in 6, bassy-ish, or something a little more open? I don't really think of drop 2 I don't use that term. I think of just like semi-open. And there are 2 things I'm going to show you. One is just what I call a modal voicing, which is kind of traditional soli, except that all doubling is in the same octave, so that the range of the band is small. It moves very easily. I kind of think that like, a boat moving smoothly across the water, a tumbleweed, nothing getting stuck low down. And you can imagine that the range becomes pretty limited that the band can actually function in. So let's look at the first example here. This is from my new project called This Rock We're On, Imaginary Letters. There's sort of an overture. It's called Lay of the Land. And you can put up the first slide there, Dan. So starting in the middle of the page there on measure 72, this is just a 4-note chord with 3 people per chord. I call it 2 + 1 × 4. 2 trumpets and soprano, 2 trumpets alto, 2 trombones tenor, and 2 trombones and bari, leaving 1 tenor, in this case, Chris Potter, to be free to do what he wants, whatever he wants to do. I can go to the next slide. More of the same here. And in measure 78, it actually slides the harmony around a little bit, but it's still 4 notes. And continuing, goes to the next slide. Then here, the harmony speeds up a little bit, and the trombones are traditionally voiced in a 4-note chord, and above them is unison. Then in measure 88, it goes back to the modal voicing, soli. And then in measure 93, it goes back to the idea of just unison over a voicing. Okay, so, and you can hear from the harmonic rhythm, the speed that the music moves, how I made my choices. All right, and we're going to talk about another excerpt from the same piece. This first score page, it's coming off a really high energy double time section, and we go to the next slide. And there's some more traditional soli writing here, even though it's what we would call the diatonic method. But you can see that in measure 272, I really plant the tree, drop the anchor, put the roots down, root of a tree, root of the chord, really give it some body. Then we go to the next page, and then it relaxes, goes back to single time, out of double time, next page, and it goes back to this modal type of voicing with just 4 different pitches. I hope you can hear some of the decision-making logic there behind whether I wanted to really feel the harmony or just keep the melody and the body of the band moving smoothly. Okay, we're going to look at one more excerpt. This is also from this rock we're on, Imaginary Letters. This is, the imaginary letter here is from the marine biologist Rachel Carson to her friend Dorothy Freeman. It's called Another Summer, and there's a theme from that is... The lyric is, "There will always be another summer, another summer." And then I use that in this orchestral piece, jazz orchestral piece, Tides. And there's one little game I'm going to play here. This is also a modal voicing, in that at first, we can go to the first slide here. This is a little mood setting. And then the next slide. This is that melody, "There Will Always Be," which is a 4-note chord, 1 person per chord. Then in measure 294, the next part of the melody, a 4-note chord, 2 people per chord. And then the next one, 3 people per chord, 4 players. And then in the next slide, the end of the melody happens once again, where the tenor saxophone, who's the featured soloist, plays it again. And I'll just say one thing about, sometimes when I'm voicing, I'll think about painting the top, and I'm just picking appropriate range and deciding what the color of the top should be. I'll do this in traditional voicings also. Paint it with vibes or guitar or flute or flugel just for that color, and not worry too much about something that's already balanced. So there's some top painting here, and then the multiplication of the players. Leaves you on a pretty mellow note there, some very sad music. But I hope that gives you an idea about some very important thing that you should be thinking about. That at first, when you're thinking about what kind of voicing should I use, you have to think, what do I want this voicing to do? And what is its function? And is it vertical or horizontal? What's the context? What's the pace and the speed of the music? And how fast can we access information as listeners to make this most effective?
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.